Welcome to the weird phase before success. This phase here is exactly when you've changed. You're doing the work, you've done the inner work, you're showing up differently, you're acting differently, yet reality still reflects your past. Now, before we get into the whiteboard here, I want you to think of your change like this. So this is something that my mindset coach told me before. Personally, I've gone through this void and I'm still going through this void period, the weird phase before success. I've gone through this multiple times and I'm in it right now. I've gone through it when I was changing my identity, when I was building confidence. I've gone through it when I was building my body, my fitness. I went through it when I was lost in life and I first started building my first successful business. Nobody understood me. Everyone was against me. My family didn't want me to do it. And now I'm going through it again as I'm pursuing this brand new business, this dream of mine. So I can totally relate to you. If you're going through this void, you're most definitely not alone. But I remember one time my mindset coach shared this story with me, and she completely changed the way I thought about it. And it helped me ease through this void so much better. So I hope this helps you as well. So I want you to imagine this. Imagine this is your old self here, but imagine this scenario where you right here get the desire to change up your room. So you're like, okay, you know what? It's time for a change. I want to change the way my room looks. Okay. Then what happens though is before you get the change in your room, right? Before your room's actually fully changed, it doesn't just happen like that. There's this phase. There's this middle period right here. And what happens in that middle period is the room is going to get messy. So you want to change up your room. Room's going to have to get messy. You're going to have to reorganize it. You're going to have to change things around. You're going to have to do some sweeping, all the dirty work that you might not want to do. But the goal is to change the room around. So what happens to a lot of people is when they're trying to change their lives and they're trying to transform themselves is they judge themselves so harshly in that middle phase. And a lot of other people on the outside do as well. This is why you might feel insecure in this phase. You might feel lost in this phase. You're worried about judgment in this phase, right? Because you're changing around the room. You know what you want to accomplish. Nobody else really understands. And sometimes you can judge yourself harshly. You get lost in that because it's like, well, in life, it's not the same as changing your room, right? It's not as certain. When you're changing out your room, you're certain, like, I'm going to change out my room. I have the new stuff that I want. I have the vision. It's going to be easy. I'm going to do it. But in life, it's not always like that. So it can be so chaotic in that middle part. What I would suggest to you is not to not judge yourself so harshly and focus only on the middle point because the room's messy. It's a part of the journey. It's a part of the process to get where you want to go. So that's kind of a quote or a saying that my mindset coach shared with me that really helped me go through this void last year when I was really heavily in that weird phase. So let's dive into the first section, which is what is this weird phase and why does it happen? All right, this is exactly how I would kind of explain this void. So that's what I call the void. The void is a weird period where you are not your old self anymore. You are working on getting away from your old life. You want change. You want to accomplish new goals, whatever it may be. But yet the results have not yet materialized yet. So like you're in this middle phase where it's like kind of lost, right? What's going on? I'm not my old self. I'm not showing up the way I was. I don't think the way I was. I don't operate the way I was. But yet I'm still the same in a way. This is how I describe it. So think of it like this. This right here is reality, okay? Here's you're chasing after it. This means basically like you've done the inner work, you're taking action, you think differently, you're operating differently. Hopefully you've changed your identity by now. And then reality's right there. And the problem with reality though is that it still reflects your past. Your reality is still reflecting your past. So how your brain operates is that we often think that our brain wants us to be happy or our brain wants us to be successful, but it doesn't. Your brain does not care about success. Your brain does not care about happiness. Your brain does not care about any of those things. Think of your brain as a prediction machine. Your brain wants safety. It wants familiarity. It wants certainty. That's how it wants to function. It's why we have habits, for example. We have habits, so habits are unconscious patterns that we continuously repeat. One reason why is because it's very safe and secure. It's like a program. Second reason why, though, is that it conserves energy. So the brain operates like so. So this is a big challenge when it comes to change because in order to change, what needs to happen, you need to change. You need to think differently. You need to operate differently. You need to believe differently about yourself so that way you continuously show up, act differently to produce different results. The problem with that, though, is that your brain's a prediction machine, right? So it's always trying to predict the future. How does it predict the future? Based off your past. But when you're trying to change your future, you don't want the same past to repeat itself. And that's where that glitch starts to happen, because it's like, hey, your brain's like firing off and you feel anxious, you're feeling worried, you're feeling overwhelmed. These are all parts of your animal self trying to get you to collapse back to safety and security. That's what it is. It's basically just your old ego, your old identity screaming at you, so that way you hopefully give up and go back to the comfort zone. Not because your brain hates you, but it simply wants to protect you. So when you're changing your life, right, and you're acting differently, there's a part of your brain that's fighting against it, and it's going to continuously try to find evidence on why you're not changing. It's always going to try to focus on things, on why you're not changing, why things are not working out in your old life, old self, etc., etc., etc. So reality is going to reflect this old life for a little while, but also another reason why too is because when you take action, so you want to think of reality like a mirror, okay? If you want the mirror to change, right, what must happen? You need to change. When you're looking into a mirror and you want the mirror to smile, for example, you need to smile first and then the mirror reflects it after. But in reality, when you're taking action to change your life, there's always a lag period, right? It's not like, okay, I want to be rich and I'm going to act, I'm going to act, and I'm going to be rich tomorrow. Usually, maybe for some people, right? If you're good at that manifesting, whatever it may be, but usually there's a lag period of time where you have to continuously act, show up differently, and eventually those results start to materialize. They start to be produced. Now, in spiritual terms, what they call this is basically you need to shift your frequency to that level to attract what you want. How you shift your frequency is changing your overall emotional state by changing your belief systems, which then overall, once you change your belief systems, you change your thinking patterns and your feelings. That creates a new identity, so that stabilizes a new consistent self. Then you act off that new self in alignment with the results you want to produce. It's kind of how you manifest. That's how they talk about like frequency in spiritual terms. So if you want to shift your frequency to a new reality, right, you need to do that work. You need to change your identity. You need to change the way you're acting and showing up. And eventually reality will start to reflect the changes you made within. This is one of the universal principles, the universal laws about as within, so without. Everything starts within and then changes without. Now, this also ties into your belief systems though. So there's another weird phase, because as you're changing yourself, if you actually want lasting change, you need to change your belief systems, because your beliefs are the instructions that your brain follows in reality. So like I said, your reality, or your brain's always trying to predict reality, does that based on the past. But it also does that by using your core belief systems. Whatever you believe to be true, it doesn't matter if it's rooted in fact or full truth, your brain will just go with it. So if you believe in something, for example, you believe in flat earth, your brain's going to find evidence that the world or the earth is flat. If you believe in God, your brain's going to find evidence to prove that God is real for you. That's going to be your personal experience. Also works on terms of your personal self. If you believe that you're unworthy, if you believe that you're not good enough, if you believe that the world is a dangerous, evil place, guess what? That's your personal reality experience. That's what some people call the lifeline you're going to be living. Doesn't mean it's the same for everybody. And we should never assume that everyone thinks the same as us. But if that's what we believe to be true, that's going to be our personal reality experience. So as you've changed, as you're changing, especially if you've done the inner work, your belief systems are starting to change. So at this point here is that conflicting period where reality still reflects the past, right? You change your belief systems. So this is the point in time where we really need to work on finding new evidence for the new beliefs. Otherwise, that old identity, that old ego, it's going to take over. We're going to collapse backwards because our reality still has not yet changed. And a lot of us, what we like to do is we like to look outside of us for the world to tell us who we are. But you can't do that if you actually want to change. If you want to change your life, you need to decide who you are and then carve out that piece of pie in the world. As you continue to act, you continue to think, you continue to feel, and you work on this and work on this and work on this, and eventually you genuinely become it. So that's kind of how you want to think of the void. Now, another last thing I'll share with you in this void is that you can feel quite lonely and misunderstood in this void. And the reason why is because most people have this certain set image of who they think you are and how you are based on your past history. And a lot of people don't like when things go outside of this box, right? As naturally as people, as animals, we don't like change. We like certainty. We like things to stay the same. This can be an uncomfortable period of time when you're working on changing your life, because not many people are going to go with you on that path. And you have to go alone. It's going to be lonely. You're going to be misunderstood. You're going to question yourself. This is why you don't need to worry about certainty about your reality. You just need to be certain about yourself, who you are as a person, how you're changing yourself, where you're going to go. If you're certain about that, you trust yourself, you understand how reality creation works, you've got it. But do not let other people try to fit you into an old box that you're no longer wanting to fit into. So now that you have a proper understanding about this void period, so basically just a recap, right? So it's when you've personally changed, as in you've done the inner work, you're believing differently, you have a new operating system, which is a new identity, who you believe you are. So you're thinking, feeling, acting differently, you're behaving differently. All those things are different, but yet reality does not reflect that change yet. So in that gap, there can be a lot of anxiety, worry, stress, uncertainty, doubt, fear. All these things and emotions are popping up. Mind you, and if you want another training on this, I can, those are all limiting belief systems that we have about the world that cause us to have the fear. For example, beliefs of scarcity, beliefs of things are not, that you're not supported, right? Because if you genuinely have belief systems that you're supported, everything works out for you in the end, it would not be so tough going through this void. That's a whole other training that I can break down if you'd like to. But back to the program. So that's kind of the void. We're in that period. Your nervous system is also not attuned to this new state, right? So the nervous system is kind of in charge, we'll say, of what is safe and what is a threat. So if something's a threat, you're going to feel that anxiousness. You're not going to feel good. Creative thought shuts down, etc. But that's kind of the void period before reality catches up to the inner changes you've made. Now let's talk about don't do's during the void, because this period is literally where everyone gives up. Everyone, as in when all the people who's ever given up on their dreams and their goals, they've given up in this period of time. So let's talk about don't do's, so that way you don't fall into the statistic of giving up. All right. This one's a pretty obvious one, but I need to share it. And the first one is don't collapse back. And the reason why is plain and simple. You're trying to get away from where you've been for a reason. So there's no reason to go backwards. The only reason why you go backwards is because you're so uncomfortable in this middle phase that you'd rather the uncomfortable comfort zone rather than the uncomfortable void period. But you must remember that you're trying to get away from that place for a reason. Do not collapse back. Do not collapse back. That's the number one reminder, is do not quit, because you will make it through this void. Another universal truth is knowing that every single thing changes. It doesn't matter if you've been in this void for 6 months or 6 years, you don't want to go backwards because you're literally trying to get away from there for a reason. So keep focused on where you want to go and keep doing your part, and just do not collapse backwards. And number 2 is needing outside certainty. What I mean by outside certainty is trying to look to the outside world, the outer world, to tell you who you are and where you fit in. The people who don't know who they are and are not certain about themselves, they allow the world to kind of organize them in some pie, some section for them. The problem with that is that it's probably not who you actually want to be. You become a victim of your life. So the key here when you're changing yourself and you're going through this void is stop looking to the outside world to tell you who you are, because it's going to tell you basically all your past habits is who you are, because your habits have produced the results that you have right now in your life from the past, and who you are today and how you're acting is going to produce the results in the future for you. So if you continuously look at the reality right now to tell you who you are, especially in this void, it's not going to be good, because it's going to be your old self. So the key here instead, and I'm going to share with you actual keys on how to do this, so just a little run by though, is the key here is that you can't be certain about the outside world, and you kind of stop looking for certainty in other things because you're in an uncertain period of time, right? You're literally changing your life, so you really don't know what's to come. You can try to think and predict all you want, but even that is going to be limited. So what you can be certain about though is yourself. Okay? And this is super key to stick to your promises. When you say you're going to do something, follow through on it, because then you become more certain. You start to trust in yourself more. Let me give you an example here. Imagine your friend asks you to go to the movies and you go and they do not show up. And let's say they do that 6 more times. The next time that they ask you to go to the movies, do you think you're going to go? Absolutely not. The reason why is because you no longer trust them. So this is why you need to stick to your promises. You need to stay true to yourself, because the more you trust in yourself, the more certain you are about yourself, the less certainty you need outside of you, the less validation you need outside of you. And when you can fit into that zone, that character, you're going to be able to rapidly transform your life so much faster than other people who need that validation, who need that certainty. Those are the type of people who are going to really struggle with change, experience a lot of anxiety and worry, because when you change your life, there is that uncertain period of time. Number 3 is holding on. What I mean by holding on is that a lot of people want change, but they don't want to let go of their past and their comfort zone. Simply, that just doesn't work. If you want a new life, you want new results, you're going to need new things. Maybe that's new people, new environments, new jobs, new places, whatever it may be. You can't bring your past into your future. Okay, same thing with habits, right? Let's say somebody wants to lose weight and they have this comforting habit of, binge eating every weekend with their partner. That was me in the past with my ex, and this is something that we did. It would sabotage my results all the time with fitness. But it's like you can't take that past with you into your future. Those old habits, those old patterns, they have to go. So don't be so attached to your past. Be willing to let go. Be willing to go through this uncomfortable year time so you can build a new, powerful, expansive, comforting zone. So that's the next key, though, is holding on to your past. And maybe that is, and this is where you got to be really honest with yourself and see what fits my new life and what does not fit my new life. But don't hold on to old attachments, old past things if they do not align with the future you're building, because what you're just going to do then is create more lag time before the new reality, before the new life, before the new self. It's just going to slow things down much, much more. So it's better to just let go of what needs to be let go, have complete trust and faith that what you need is going to be there in front of you if you just do your part, and let go of what no longer serves you. Up next, number 4, we have predicting. Now, this is key here, because remember, your old self, your old mind, you can only think to the limited thoughts, the limited beliefs, the limited identity that you had. You do not want to try to predict everything that's going to happen, because you're just basically going to try to predict your past again. This is where you need to focus on doing your part, which we're going to talk about soon. Some things that are not your part, though, is trying to predict and control the future. That is not your part. It's not your part to predict every single step and what's going to come. What you can do is just focus on exactly what's in front of your face, take it step by step. You control your attitude, your actions, your focus, etc. But you can't control other people. You can't control the way things lay out, how they work out, what's the next steps, where you're going to end up, etc. Some of those things you just cannot control. So you're better off to let it go rather than constantly trying to predict reality. Because when you're sitting there predicting what you're doing, or what I should say is you're not doing, which is going to be the next one, is you're not acting. You're thinking too much in your head. You're waiting for life to change rather than actually going out and making the change happen. Because remember, there's that fear part of you, there's that worry, anxious part of you that doesn't want the change. So every opportunity they get, they're going to try to get you to be fearful, to dive into that fear, that doubt, and you don't want to suck up all that negative energy. Number 5 is zero act. What I mean by this is not taking action. You cannot sit and meditate and expect your life to transform drastically. You need to do your part. And what your part is acting. You need to take action in order to create change. Another universal law is the law of rhythm or law of correspondence, or what do you want to call it? Basically, just the law of action. That every action has a response, has a reaction, has something that's going to come from it. So as you can trust in that, you don't need to know that you're doing the perfect actions, because you can always adjust as you go. Failure is a part of winning. The difference between a failure and a loser, or the difference between a failure, a loser, and a winner is that the winner just decided to fail more. That's it. Because after failing so much, they've eventually found their way to success. The failure, the real failure, the loser, gives up as they're failing. That's the difference. So you need to act. You need to do your part as you're making this change. And here's the thing. Again, this is why I talk about predicting reality. You don't need to know all the next steps. You just need to look right in front of your face and say, these are the changes I want. This is where I want to go. Okay, what can I do? And maybe it's something really small. Maybe it's something really big. But you know, if you really self-reflect, if you listen to your heart, your intuition, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, you know there's a few couple of things that you can do to get the changes that you want to make in your life. Number 6 is a bonus. And I'm adding this in just from my personal experience. Number 6 is being loud. Don't be loud in this period. This is a period of time where you probably want to maybe not isolate, but kind of isolate. You want to be very picky with who you're around, who you're giving your energy to, who you're telling, like what people you're telling about your dreams and what you're doing and your goals. This is the time of period where you want to be very picky, very precise, and have very high standards for the people around you. This matters a lot because as you're changing your life and you're chasing big goals and dreams, if the people you're around do not think as big as you do, if they don't understand how reality creation works, manifesting, if they're stuck in the old box, the old comfort zone, the animal way of thinking, safety, survival, you can't have that crap because that is going to suck into you. That is going to drain into you, and you do not need that, especially when you're changing your life. It's the last thing you want in your life. So be very careful about who you tell your dreams to. Be very careful about who you tell your goals to and what you're doing and where you want to go. Just be very careful. So what I suggest here is don't be so loud. Okay? Don't be so loud. Just focus on yourself. Have your own thing. You don't need to explain yourself to anybody. Just do what you want to do and do your part with doing it. And who cares about what other people think? Because when you've made the change, guess what's going to happen? How'd you do it? You got lucky. All this nonsense. But you know who you are and you know what you did to get there. And that's all that matters because the right people will see that as well. And that will almost help you filter out who's not meant for your life and who is moving forwards. All right, so now that we talked about the don't do's, now let's talk about how to actually stabilize this new self through the void so that way you don't suffer so much through this change and you can get through it way, way faster. So how do we take this green, or this red, I should say, and go full green? Fully stabilize the new self in the void. Let's dive in. All righty. So the new self, how do we stabilize this new self? How do we make it through this void just bulletproof wise? Like how do we really crush this void so we can not only speed up the change, speed up this void, this weird phase, but come out on top exactly as the person we want to be and definitely not go backwards. Now, maybe it's a new job, freedom you want, love, a bunch of money, new business, whatever it may be. Any change requires change, right? So here is step number one. This is kind of a big one, and it's all about doing your part. Now, the first thing I feel called to share when I talk about this is number one is surrendering. When I say surrendering, you might think like giving up. No, absolutely not. Surrendering, what I mean by that is surrender what you need to surrender. Like surrender as in let go and give up on the things that you actually don't have control over. One thing about people and the survival self, the animal self, I call it our animal brain, is that we want control because we want safety. We build this illusion of safety around our lives by trying to control all these things and thinking we have so much control when you actually don't. And the more you try to control, the less control you actually have. So the number one step is surrender. Let go of what you don't actually have control over. And then we can focus on what we do have control over. And what you do have control over is number one, your mind. You have control over your attitude. You have control over your focus. You have control over your belief systems, creating your identity. All of those pieces there, you have control over. You can control your attitude, your actions, your behaviors, what you focus on. You can control all those pieces. And if you can just control those pieces, those are the pieces that are going to produce the results anyways, right? You don't need to control other people or how situations work out or where you're at or where you're going, all these things. You don't need to control that. Okay. Same thing with trying to predict the future, right? If you're going through a slump period of time where your money's low, you don't need to control the outcome by trying to assume what's going to happen next. Just remember, you have everything you need right here, right now. And you can choose to trust that you're going to have everything you need in the next moment, or you can choose to trust that you're not going to have everything you need in the next moment. Either way, you choose what you want to trust in. So you might as well trust in the best. You might as well trust in yourself. You might as well believe in yourself because that will actually produce you a way better outcome, right? This is a side note I'm going to share with you, but the way you want to look at that is that reality itself is neutral. You're the one that assigns meaning to things, how you interpret things, etc. So when you go through life and a challenge pops up, let's say two people go through this challenge. One has a positive mindset, the other one has a very negative mindset. Okay? The person who believes everything's happening for them will look at this challenge as just a building block to where they want to go. So therefore, they'll look at it in a different perspective. What is the lesson out of this that I can obtain? What do I need to learn? What is this teaching me? How do I get around this? That's their positive perspective helping them out. The person with a negative perspective is like, this sucks. I'm never going to get through. Challenges always pop up. The world is always against me. See, things never work out. They're using that as evidence to reconfirm what they already believe to be true, which is the negative belief system that things don't work out or whatever it may be, right? So they're both going to have two complete different experiences moving forwards, even though technically it was the same thing. That's what I mean by your personal reality experience, is that you can decide based on what you believe to be true, because that assigns meaning, how you interpret things, etc. So that's kind of what I mean there as a little side note. But that's number one, is do your part. That's it. And then let go of the rest. And I suggest personally, have a checklist. I have like a checklist every single day of the things that I need to do to get to where I want to go. And if I just check those off, I know that I'm making progress. And every month or so, I'll review, I'll reflect on all the progress I made. How can I improve on the things that I am doing? How can I get better? What do I need to adapt or change? And then I just keep doing my part. And it's worked every single time since I've started on things. I've built a successful business. I've built my dream body. I've changed myself into become the person I've always wanted to be. And it's super, super possible for you to do as well. I'm no special, I'm no different, that's for sure. So that's number one, is do your part. Number two, trust bucket, or you can say confidence bucket. The reason why I want to talk about this is because you need confidence. You need trust in yourself, or confidence in yourself, if you're going to get through this void. You definitely need it. You know what I just sum it up to say is you need self-belief. And here's the thing though, this is going to twist your mind about how you think about trust and confidence. So typically we often think that I'm just not a confident person, right? I just don't trust in myself. No, it's backwards. How this actually works is that you never lack trust. You never lack confidence. You can be confident in yourself, or you can be confident that you're not a confident person. See what I mean? You're pretty confident in that idea that you're not confident. You're pretty confident, or you can trust in yourself that things are going to work out, or you can trust that things are not going to work out, but you never lack trust. So you may as well put all of your trust into yourself and things working out. You may as well put all of your confidence into yourself and things working out. Because the only reasons why you wouldn't is because there's a limiting belief system and past evidence and past results that were produced from this limiting belief system that has caused you to see yourself in your life in that lens and find evidence on why you should not have trust in yourself, why you should choose to be confident that you're not confident in yourself. But you can dissect those, because none of those are actually universal truth, right? None of that is actually universal truth. So you can change that and adopt the power and belief systems to actually choose to trust in yourself, have confidence in yourself, and then you'll act towards that. You'll act like that. You'll think and behave like that. And guess what? You'll get that result. But that's the next one, is your trust bucket. You got to have trust in yourself. You got to have belief in yourself. One thing that works for me is I feel so connected with my soul, with the universe, with consciousness, with God, whatever you want to call it. I have such a connected relationship with that higher self. So when I do my part, when I act on my dream, I trust that this inner calling of mine is there for a reason. And if I do my part, I will be supported. And guess what? Knowing that I believe that, I find evidence for that everywhere as I go. It makes me more excited. I continue to act on it, and I never stop and I never give up. And it always works out over and over and over again. Now, it could not work out if I didn't believe in that, because there's so much other evidence that would contradict that. But I choose to have the right beliefs that align with the life that I want. And therefore, I act that way, and I am in alignment with that way, if that makes any sense. That's number two, though, is the trust bucket. All right, I hope I wrote this right, but number three is misunderstood. You got to be okay with being misunderstood. You got to be okay with being misunderstood. This is the period of time where you're creating who you are, okay? Everyone else sees this old reflection of you, see all these changes. They're trying to make assumptions. It does not matter. It literally does not matter. You cannot care what other people think. You cannot be that way. You have to just care about what you want, what you think about, what you truly believe in. Go do that, and the right people will align with that as you go. The wrong ones will filter out of your life. And those are the true people that actually matter in your life. But you can't care about people judging you and all these ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. I've had so many adults when I was younger, in my young 20s, just starting out, or even 19 when I built my first business, and everyone was trying to pave my path. Go do this, go do that. You don't have a course, you don't have this. Nobody's going to trust you, nobody's going to believe in you. You're this young. I never listened to it. I didn't care. You know what I did do though, is I paid money to work with people who are already where I want to be. So I paid successful people who already have what I wanted, and I listened to them. Because why would I ever listen to somebody who has nothing that I want? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Why would you take advice and listen to somebody who literally does not have anything that you want? You can hear them out, but I don't really suggest you take their advice. So I would take advice from people who already have what I want, who are where I want to be, and I would follow their guidelines and their path. And that's it. But you got to be okay with being misunderstood, because I'll tell you one thing, the people who are already where you want to be, they'll never bash on you because they get it. They understand what you're going through and what you're doing. The people who have never done it before, they're going to cry and whine from the crowd, but it doesn't matter. They're just spectators. They're viewers. They do not matter. What matters is where you're going, why you're doing it, and who you're becoming in the process. Just focus on yourself, keep doing your part, and be okay with being misunderstood. If you have to go alone, go alone. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, because I promise you, when you get there, the win, the success weighs 1,000 pounds when this uncomfortable period, this loneliness period, this embarrassing period I see in my comments that people will say this embarrassment, it weighs a feather. But the success weighs 1,000 pounds. It's worth it at the end of the day. And that's what matters most. And you got to hold on to that emotion. You got to hold on to that feeling. You got to run towards it every day, because that's your hope. That's your faith. Because it's easy to worry about what people say. It's easy to collapse back into that judgment. Okay. Especially if you are young and you're working your life, or even if you're in your 30s and 40s, right? And you want a partner, you want all these things. There's all these potential worries and ideas and stuff like that to be stressed out about. You got to let it go. I get it. I'm going through it right now again too. Like I said, you got to let it go, because I promise you, if you just do your part, you follow that path and what I mentioned, it's all going to work out better than you can imagine. The last one to share with you is a little bit unique. You can call it universal principles, universal laws, universal truths, whatever you want to call it. But number 4 is universal laws, universal truths, just universal principles that go across the board. The reason why I think this is really important is because your mind's going to try to make up all these ideas and stories and assumptions that are not based in fact or truth. And oftentimes these stories, assumptions, labels, and ideas are negative, and they're disempowering, and they're fear-based, and they're very limiting, that are going to hold you down and hold you back. So this is where you want to dive into these universal laws. And if you can really study universal laws and how they actually work, and you go off those as a foundation, then you're going to get through these changes much faster. For example, you might think that nothing's ever going to change in your life and you're going to be stuck forever, especially, when your money's low, money's tight, or you're lonely, you don't have the things that you want for a long period of time. You might think it's always going to be that way. A universal law, though, or a universal truth, is that every single thing changes. Or the law of action, right? As you act in a certain way and what you want, every action has a reaction. Or the law of attraction. As you start to become the person who has the thing that you want, you naturally act in alignment to get there. And there's scientific proof behind it. If you don't know about it, just keep watching my YouTube stuff and I explain all of that there. But I really suggest go to the truth. Try to find the truth. Try to find the universal truths and principles that are like esoteric knowledge, I guess is what you could say, that are ancient teachings that run across the board on how reality actually works, how creation actually works, and then run by those principles. So when you're ever stuck and you're lost, just ask yourself, is this an assumption, is this a story, or is this universal truth? What principle is this tying into, or how can I think about this differently based off the universal laws, universal truths? And if you do that, it'll always help you reset, keep it stupid simple, and you'll go back to just doing your part, enjoying the journey. You'll learn the lesson as well, because you'll realize like, oh, I had a very disempowering belief system. I had a belief system of lack and scarcity. Like, let's say, for example, you're trying to build your life and change your life, and you think your problem right now is that you don't have enough money and time. That's a very scarce mindset, right? I don't have enough. I don't have enough. That's the limiting belief system. I don't have enough. There's not enough for me, right? There's a lack in the world. There's scarcity in the world. That's a belief system. But you can change that because it's not tied into the actual full truth. So you can change that, apply a new belief system, and now you're thinking in abundance. Now, then you can think when it comes to abundance, it's not just about money or time. There's resources, there's people, there's support systems. I have access to all these things. Then you can act in those avenues. You'll stop, you'll get stuck, you'll come back, and you'll keep trying new ones. And eventually, guess what? You'll get the result. And then it's like, oh, shoot, that's a better operating system to go off of rather than the one that stopped my tracks, which is the belief of scarcity and lack. So that's just an example right there about these universal truths and how powerful they can be and helping the way you shape how you think and how you see the world and how you then act, etc. All right, guys, so that is the training for today. If you did like this, make sure you like and subscribe. If you also really resonate with my content and you want to go deeper and really expand yourself, transform your life for the highest good, I am making a community right now. I'm in the process of that. You can follow me on Instagram at Caden Hayward to stay updated and tuned in on when that is going to be released. But other than that, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe and follow for more. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next training.